I want to bring in North Carolina Congressman Mark Harris. He's a member of the House Judiciary, Agriculture, and Education Committees. Congressman, your reaction to the avalanche of executive actions we've seen?
Well, Cheryl, it's great to be with you this morning. And, you know, when Trump 45 and now Trump 47, there's one thing I think everyone will notice the consistency, and that is the theme: promises made, promises kept. And I think he went in, and in day one, he has certainly already started making those promises be checked off the list.
He certainly has. And, you know, one of the things about this avalanche of executive orders, and this is where we thought we were going to get the pushback, and we are, and it's the border. In particular, the American Civil Liberties Union, they're already filing suit. You know, the CBP One app was shut down immediately. You know, so it looks like we knew this was going to come, and they had telegraphed this to us, that it was going to be about the border. But as far as the fight ahead, what do you foresee is going to be the biggest stumbling block in all of this?
Well, I don't know. The stumbling block, I guess, obviously these lawsuits have been filed, but I think the president has the support of the American people. I think it was clear the agenda he ran on: securing the border, unleashing American energy. All of those are priorities that he really, as you've just listed off this morning, took action on right out of the gate. And I believe the American people are behind him. We saw a mandate in this election as we have the House. We took back the Senate and the White House. And so I think these agenda items are going to move forward, and he's committed to it.
Well, you know, certainly that slim majority for Republicans in the House is going to be a big piece of the next steps for negotiation when it comes to the reconciliation packages, whether we've got one bill or two. Also, you know, remember, former President Biden made some last-minute pardons yesterday for several of his close relatives: his younger brother James, his wife Sarah, younger sister Valerie, her husband John Owens, and the other Biden brothers, Francis. They all got preemptive pardons. But he set similar pardons for General Mark Milley, Dr. Anthony Fauci, all congressional members and witnesses on the January 6th committee. Joe Biden, remember, though, struck a much different tone back in December 2020 when it was thought that Trump could preemptively pardon his family. Watch this.
Does this concern you? All these preemptive pardons?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. You're not going to see in our administration that kind of approach to pardons.
Congressman?
Well, I just think you continue to see the inconsistency of former President Biden. Feels good to say that. But frankly, I think we've got a real problem. Legal scholars, some that I've talked to in the last 2 days, really question the constitutionality of these preemptive pardons. And on the Judiciary Committee, I got a feeling we're going to have an opportunity to hear from some of these folks.
Well, I also want to ask you about the Department of Education, because you are the Education Committee, and President Trump has made it clear that he wants to, quote unquote, dismantle the Department of Education, take education back to the states, let the states control that oversight. What's your response to that?
Yes, I totally agree with that. In fact, many of us ran to be part of this 119th Congress and have been running for really years on that very issue, and that is taking education back to our state and local communities. The best education is done when it's led by those that they're at home, and I think taking all the money from the Department of Education, putting it back in the states and the local would be a great, great move.
Also, too, just because there's been such like I said, an avalanche of executive actions since yesterday, the change for government workers in particular. Government workers, he wants them back in the office. There's now a hiring freeze. We're already seeing threats from the unions representing government workers who knew this was coming, to be clear. There could be lawsuits there. And then also the change in DEI initiatives throughout the federal government. What is your response to all of those actions?
Well, again, I just have to go back to promises made, promises kept. There's a new sheriff in town, and I remember when we were flying up here for orientation in November after our election to this Congress, and my wife happened to be sitting on the plane next to an individual that was from Mississippi, and they were actually that day returning to the office for the first time in a government job since COVID. And returning to Washington to work. And so, again, I think there's a real concern. This president is taking action just like he said he would. And I think the American people are going to respond in a very, very positive way.
You know, also, too, you know, we understand now that Marco Rubio, of course, he's the first confirmation Secretary of State. Vice President Vance is going to be swearing him in at 9 a.m. Eastern time today. Our place on the world stage, there's certainly a new sheriff in town, if you will. You know, his critics would say that foreign leaders are nervous because they're not going to get the support of an ally like the United States of America. Do you think that that's a fair criticism? And how do you think the world is perceiving this morning the quick change in executive leadership in this country?
I think America has always been a leader of the free world. And do so by example. And I think this is a strong indication of that. I had an opportunity just yesterday to speak to former Prime Minister Boris Johnson from the UK that was there. And he just again reiterated what it seemed to be such an exciting day for America, and then yet expressed his concerns for what was going on right now, even in his own country. So I think this president is a world leader. I think people are looking to him. I think America is leading by example, and I think the president reiterated that even yesterday in his inaugural address, that folks are taking notice, and America is leading this movement.
Yeah. All right. Congressman Mark Harris. Congressman, thank you for being here.